All right, YouTube. I thought I should explain for people some of the reasons why I tend to wear a coat indoors. Now, number one is just stylistic. I prefer to look like this, to dress like this. It's just, I like it. It has nothing to do with like projecting an image for other people so much as I look in the mirror, I happen to like the way that I look when I wear this kind of clothing. So that's the main reason why. The other reason, though, is a little bit different. Some years ago, when I was a freshman in high school, this is over a decade ago, time flies. There was a field trip that we were on. Actually, not really a field trip as in, well, we went on a bus somewhere, but literally right out in back of the school for the science class that I was in at the time. Now, when I first got up in the morning, two things were true. It was a lot warmer than it was towards midday. The bottom dropped out. The temperature dropped about 15, 20 degrees from, sort of the mid 40s, fairly nice, to down in the low 30s, upper 20s, a little bit more cold, and it got quite windy. Secondly, I didn't know there was going to be an outing that day during block science. That is, during the double block period. And so when I went to school that day, I decided, I don't want to wear big ass puffy goose down coat for no reason. I figured I'd just wear sort of the little sweatshirt pullover that I had, and that would suffice, because I figured, well, I'm going to be indoors anyway. Why exactly do I need a heavy coat for a day like today? It's fairly nice out. The snow is actually like starting to melt. Can't remember what exact month of the year it was. I do know that it was unseasonably warm on that day. So when I got to science, of course, the decision was made, oh yeah, we're going to go wander around out back and just sort of take in nature. It was sort of, a general science class at the time, the sort of stuff that freshmen take. It was honors something or other. I can't remember the exact title of the course. Anyway, the temperature started dropping not long after we went out. Here I am, I've got no gloves. I've got a light coat, and that's basically all I've got. I've got sneakers on. I don't have winter boots or anything like that because there was no need in my mind to actually have that. About halfway through, I started losing feeling in my extremities. By the time we actually got inside, my hands were completely numb, or mostly. My forearms were numb. My legs, certainly, I literally could not feel my legs. Like, I didn't have frostbite. It wasn't all hard and fucked up and started turning blue when it thawed out or anything. There's another phenomenon, though, called frost nip. Certainly my body temperature was beginning to drop somewhat dangerously low by that point. It took me a good hour to actually restore feeling to my legs. I was sitting there in the next class. I'm like, I think might be something wrong here. I've got my pencil. I'm like poking myself and like I can't feel it at all. I don't even know exactly how I was walking at that point because I couldn't feel my feet either. Anyways, after that point, it must have screwed up my vascular system, like the surface vascular tissue or something. Because since then, I have had difficulty with the cold. You've got to realize I was born and raised in northern New England, so up until that point, who cares about cold? To me, cold was, it's below zero instead of in the teens. I had no problem with it. Like I said, having a light coat, at first I didn't even feel cold. Somebody from, the tropics or something like that certainly would have thought it was a frigid day to begin with. I thought it was comfortable. Honestly, if it had been a short outing and I knew that we were going on a short outing, I would have just worn a t-shirt or something like that, maybe put light gloves on or something for effect. But since that day where for the better part of an hour I was completely numb in most of my extremities, God, it itched when it got through thawing out. I've had several problems. First, if my hands get cold, my fingers begin to swell, some sort of vascular problem or whatever. It doesn't take much for that to happen. My core temperature is probably lower than that of the average person. I don't know exactly what happened, specifically with damage to my body, but I can't stand the cold like I used to. As such, temperatures indoors that most people would find just a slight bit cool, to me, are frigid. I cannot stand the cold. I much prefer the warmth. It's like when I was in Texas. Here it is, in the sun, basically 115, 120 degrees. I'm out there in a long sleeve black shirt and loving it. I had no problem with that. I never felt hot at all. The only thing that really, I'm very heat tolerant. I'm very rugged when it comes to heat. The only thing that'll do me is like Floridian level humidity. Then it becomes a little bit on the oppressive side, let's face it. But a dry heat, even a high dry heat, it's no problem to me. The cold is another story. So when I'm wearing a coat indoors, it's not because the average person would consider it to be cold. Yes, we have a heating system in this house. It's because I consider it cold, because I happen to get cold far more easily than the average person. So I just thought I would clear that up, because I continually have people say, oh, why are you wearing a coat indoors? Don't you have heat? Or are you too poor to afford fuel oil or something? No, not by a long shot. But I still consider it cold, and I don't want to roast everybody else who's around me. You know, if I had my way, I'd set it to 75, 80 degrees indoors, and it'd just be, I'd have humidifiers everywhere. I'd have an entire jungle lining the wall. Like the plants you see back there would be like 10 times as many. And I'd just be breathing that shit in all the time. I'd be taking long, hot showers. I take showers so hot the steam's just rolling off of me. To the point at which other people that I've been showering with, you know, in my relationships have complained that they're being scalded, that their flesh is literally being burned off by the temperature of the shower. I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, it's not hot to me. It's just comfortably warm. So yeah, that's why I tend to wear coats indoors. Just I'm a cold person. I can't help it. I live and breathe Vermont, northern New England, you know, tundra. It's like living in Siberia or something. And yeah, I will say, if it's cold enough outside, it doesn't matter if you've got a good heating system. It doesn't matter if your thermostat's turned up. You're going to feel a little bit cooler. It can be more difficult to maintain unless you want to over-insulate literally every square inch of your structure. Yeah, you're losing heat constantly, especially through windows. What I want to do is get like those argon-filled windows that they have, because those are much better at insulation. I would love that. Honestly, I wouldn't mind living in a hobbit home where you've got several feet of dirt also insulating you. Yeah, that'd be probably pretty cozy. Curl up next to the fire, have a big a bearskin rug or something you can snuggle up into, and outlast the winter that way. Or the other option is move to the Amazon or the Yucatan Peninsula, or maybe the middle of the Congo or something. You know, the southern edge of the Sahara Desert, some bamboo jungle in southern China. Yeah, those temperatures would probably be better, honestly, for somebody like me. But as long as I'm here in this frigid climate, which is what it is, it's not exactly within the temperate zone for man without man's technology. Like early primitive man wouldn't be living in this area very easily. You have to at least have the concept of fire and building a wigwam to survive the winter here. And even that'd be difficult. Man, you'd be eating so much beaver fat and bear fat to keep warm. You'd be roasting those animals over the fire. You'd be climbing inside their carcasses before long. Yeah, I don't have high cold tolerance. That's about all. Peace out.